Episode 4 Memories and Endings Dark World. The city of the Dark stretched across the valley like a living machine. Towering structures of dark stone and metal rose from the ground, connected by bridges and transport rails that carried thousands of citizens between districts. Overhead, the red dwarf star burned low in the sky, casting a constant rust-colored light across the world. Rom stood beside Hawk on a high terrace overlooking the city. For a moment, Hawk simply stared. "This is your home?" Rom nodded. "Yes." Below them, countless Dark moved through the streets. Some traveled in groups, others alone. Vehicles glided silently above the ground while transport towers carried passengers upward into the higher levels of the city. Hawk let out a slow breath. "Okay, that's bigger than I expected." Rom did not answer. Instead, he turned and began walking. "Come," he said quietly. "There is something you must see." The city faded. The world shifted. When the memory returned, they stood near a large stone complex where dozens of young Dark pups gathered in a courtyard. They chased one another, wrestling and laughing beneath the watchful eyes of instructors. Hawk watched them run. "So, this is where it starts." "Yes." Rom gestured toward the entrance of the building. "This is where they decide what you will become." They entered a large room where several hundred pups were in long lines before 5 machines. One would walk up to the machine, and a light would shine into their eyes, and a crystal in the front would shine a color: red, blue, green, yellow. Eric explained red was administration, blue was medical and science, green was engineering and mechanical, gold was for command and political. Hawk saw one of the pups come up, and the crystal turned white. One of the ones overseeing the selection machines came up and said something to the pup, who began following him away from groups of other pups. The scene changed again. Inside a chamber, Rom stood alone. The young pup paced nervously between tables covered with books and strange mechanical puzzles. After several moments, the door opened. An older Dark entered wearing the robes of the council. His was green with a gold trim. Rom's father. They spoke for several minutes. Hawk could not understand the language, but he could read the body language easily enough. At one point, the young Rom looked almost frightened. He asked a question. His father knelt and placed both paws on Rom's shoulders. The older Dark spoke calmly and then pulled the pup into a brief embrace. Rom looked relieved. "What did he say?" Hawk asked. "He told me I had done nothing wrong," Rom replied. "They simply did not know what to do with me." The scene shifted again. Rom now stood inside a dormitory room. 4 sleeping pads lined the walls. 4 trunks sat beside them. 3 were already occupied. Only 1 remained empty. Rom walked slowly into the room and examined the bare pad that would be his. He had nothing to place in the trunk. After a moment, he turned and walked back into the hallway. Hawk followed him. "Let me guess," Hawk said. "You were younger than the others." "Yes." Rom entered an administrative building and approached a desk where a female clerk waited. She spoke briefly to him and then gestured toward a corner of the room where several pads were on the floor. Rom sat on one and waited. Eventually, the door to an inner office opened. A tall, silver-furred Dark stood with his back to the room, staring out over a balcony. "So," the older Dark said, "you are Rom." He translated for Hawk. The pup said nothing. The older Dark finally turned. "I am told to admit a 12-season pup into a course that has never accepted one so young." He studied Rom carefully. Then his expression softened slightly. "How are your equations?" "Good, sir," Rom answered. The older Dark nodded once. "Hermes," he called out. "Find uniforms for this pup." A voice answered from the hall. "Yes, Chief Zeus." The older Dark looked back at Rom again. "We will see what you can do." Weeks passed in moments. Rom sat alone in classroom solving equation after equation. 10 instructors tested him, one after another. He corrected errors, solved problems, completed work far beyond his level. Eventually, Chief Zeus entered the room. "Come with me," he said simply. They walked down a corridor into a hangar where a small solar star vessel sat waiting. "There is something wrong with this ship," Zeus said. "No one has been able to find it." He pointed to a stack of manuals. "You have 14 turns." Rom stared at the vessel. "You may begin." When they checked on him the next day, the solar star was hovering off the rack on its own power. "It hasn't even been a turn yet. You corrected the problem, I see." Chief Zeus looked at the ship, turned to his assistant Hermes, and told him to place Rom into the junior class. He then turned to Rom and said, "Good luck, junior engineer." Hawk looked sideways at Rom. "That's the first time anyone called you that." "Yes." Years passed. Rom graduated. His first assignment came aboard an aging battle star hidden in one of the great cavern docks of Dark. The ship had seen better centuries. Rom loved it. Chief Pao commanded the vessel. Ajax and Ares served among the infantry. Oddmen, the infantry officer, greeted the young engineer with an easy smile and a joke. Rom spent most of his time inside engineering, repairing, improving, learning. Then the war came. During a brutal battle with the Borm, a reactor core burned out and had to be ejected into space. 3 engineers died in the failure, including the first engineer. Rom replaced the core in open space while the ship remained under fire. When the battle ended, Commander Nance stood in engineering beside Chief Pao. "That is the first time I have ever seen a core replaced during battle," Chief Pao stated. "You are my first engineer now," Nance said. Rom lowered his head slightly. "Yes, Commander." Rom looked at Hawk beside him in the memory. "That," he said quietly, "is when things truly began to change." The battle raged again later. The generator overloaded. Rom entered a maintenance tube to repair it while the ship shook under bombardment. Then a Borm weapon struck the engine. The explosion tore open the hull of engineering. Air screamed into space. Engineers were pulled out with it. Bodies slammed into machinery. The door to the generator chamber slammed shut, saving Rom's life. When the hull sealed again and air returned, Rom woke alone among the dead. The memory shifted. Stars, a wormhole tearing open before the ship, the battlestar falling into it without a plotted destination. The jump carried them into an unknown system, Earth. Rom managed to guide the dying ship from Jupiter into the inner system. Khan stole one of the shuttles. Rom abandoned the battlestar in a crater on the moon. Then he returned to Earth, to Hathor. The memory changed again. Now they stood on a hillside. A crowd gathered below. A man spoke from the hilltop. Hawk stared. "Wait, are we?" Rom answered simply, "Yes." Behind them the mist stirred. Lauren and Raven appeared. Raven held Lauren's hand tightly. Lauren studied the scene. She saw a younger Rom sitting on a rock next to them, with Hawk and him standing next to him. "You have not shown him everything." "No," Rom said calmly. The memory faded again. 3 crosses stood against a storm-dark sky. Rain began to fall. Rom stood below the center cross wearing Roman armor. Eric stood beside Hawk, holding his hand. Tears streamed down Eric's face as he watched the younger version of himself below the cross. The dying man spoke to Rom. Rom lifted a spear, then drove it into the man's side. Thunder rolled across the hill. Rom fell to his knees beneath the cross and howled in agony. Lauren whispered behind them. This is where he changed. The memory shifted. Moonlight shimmered across the sea. A young woman stepped from the darkness. Maria. She took the lonely man's hand and led him away from the shore. Hawk studied her face. "Hey, Raven." "Yeah?" "She looks like you." Raven stared. Lauren placed a hand on Raven's shoulder. That is where you came from. The vision changed to a marketplace outside a small shop. The Don's men entered the shop. One stabbed Eric. The blade sank deep into his abdomen. Eric did not fall. The man stabbed again and again. Still nothing. Eric calmly pulled the knife free. Blue-green blood ran down the blade. Then he drove the knife upward into the attacker's chest. "You will tell your Don, this ends tonight," Eric said quietly to the other men, faces on the two men registering fear. That night the Don's house burned on the hill. Rom emerged from the flames in his dark form. Black fur soaked in blood. As he walked down the hill, the form changed. Fur vanished. Bones shifted. He became human again. The villagers washed the blood from him as he passed. They gave him clothes. The blacksmith held a saddled horse. Then he rode north. After Maria, the memory dissolved. Darkness, then light. Hawk blinked. The ceiling of the guest house slowly came into focus above him. Raven was still holding his hand. "You're back," she said softly. Across the bed, Eric had not moved. Lauren sat beside him, watching carefully. "He will need a few minutes," she said. Several long minutes passed. Finally, Eric's eyes opened. "I am here," he said quietly. Seeing Lauren, he said softly, "I'm so sorry." Lauren kissed his forehead and, "I know love. Their deaths were not your fault." Outside, the last light of day faded. Night had arrived. Lauren looked toward the window. "We do not have much time," she said. "Time for what?" Hawk asked. "For them to come." Across the city, Diana argued with her followers. "You should have attacked last night," one of them snarled. "We need Rom," she replied coldly. Before she could react, her followers seized her and bound her. "Tonight," their leader said, "we take the key and the engineer." Left alone, Diana whispered into the darkness, "Brandon, come to me." Across the city, a young man lifted his head. "Coming, mistress." And high above Mexico City, a man answered a phone call. "You have secured her?" "Yes, sir." "Then it falls to you. Do not disappoint me." He hung up. Night had not yet fallen. Inside the guest house, the tension from earlier had not fully lifted. No one spoke much. Even Doc had gone quiet. Eric stood near the center of the room, now dressed in jeans and a black wool sweater, as if preparing for something practical. Raven stood across from him. He was explaining, calmly, deliberately. "The old legends are not far off," he said. "A wooden stake through the heart. Silver. You've heard all of it." Raven nodded. "Most of it." "Then listen carefully." He stepped closer. "Silver is your best tool. It burns wherever it touches them. Not like fire, worse. It spreads. Slowly at first, then faster. If it takes hold, it will consume them completely." "And if it doesn't?" Raven asked. "Then you make sure it does," Eric said evenly. "Or you remove the head." He paced once. "Decapitation is final. Burning the body is final. Sunlight will destroy them. Cloud cover only delays it. A stake will stop them, but only temporarily. It interrupts the healing. Remove it, and they recover." "So it buys time," Raven said. "Yes," he continued. "Garlic is useless. Holy water is useless. They can eat garlic, but solid food will poison them. They exist on blood. Animal will sustain them. Human blood strengthens them." Raven's jaw tightened. "Do not bury them intact," Eric said. "If the head is placed near the body, it will reattach." That got everyone's attention. "Burn them," he said. "Or leave them for the sun." He was about to continue, and stopped. Lauren's head turned at the same moment. Mac froze mid-motion. They were listening. "What is it?" Raven asked. "I think we have a visitor," Eric said quietly. "He's alone." That didn't make it better. Eric tilted his head slightly. "He's walking straight up to the door." A soft knock followed. No one moved. I'll see what our guest wants, Eric said. Careful, Lauren warned. I always am. Eric opened the door and stepped outside, closing it behind him. On the porch stood a young man in dark clothes, relaxed, smiling faintly. Too relaxed. The great Rom, he said. You don't look like much. Looks can be deceiving, newborn, Eric replied. The smile didn't fade. My name is Brandon, bound to my mistress Deanna. Then speak. You'll be attacked tonight, Brandon said. Not by her. That shifted things. They've taken it from her, Brandon continued. Said she was going soft. Who? Eric asked. Thorm. Eric's eyes hardened. How many? 25 walkers, 6 old ones. A pause. Within the hour. Why tell me this? My mistress commands it. And you? I serve her, Brandon said simply. Not them. She's tied up, by the way. Wouldn't let me untie her. Eric studied him. What makes you think I should let you leave? Brandon turned slightly. Honor. Then he walked away. You're older than you look, Eric said quietly. Brandon raised a hand without turning and flipped him off. I heard that. Eric stepped back inside. No hesitation. We're moving. Now. That landed hard. Less than an hour, he added. Lauren nodded. They'll surround us. Yes. This isn't where we make our stand, Eric said. He moved to the bookcase, pulled a volume, reached behind it. A click. The wall shifted. A hidden passage opened. You've got to be kidding me, Hawk said. No, Eric replied. I'm not. They moved. Lauren first. Raven with Eileen. Eric noted Eileen was not looking well. The stress of the last 2 days had been hard on her. Doc muttering as he stepped into the dark. Hawk behind him. Mac followed. Eric last. The wall closed behind them. The passage sloped down, then leveled, then began to rise. 2 short climbs built into the tunnel. The last bend led to a short flight of stairs, going up. Mac slowed. Door. A soft click. The door opened. The library lay beyond. Dark. Still. Clear, Mac said. They entered. Doc immediately hit something. Not a word. Hawk grinned. I didn't say anything. You were going to. The lights came on. I will never get tired of that, Doc muttered. This is where we hold, Eric said. Positions were assigned. Lauren and Raven to the 4th floor with Eileen and Doc. Eileen and Doc would be in the bedroom while Lauren and Raven took the hall. Mac and Hawk to the roof. Crossbows first, fire second. Explosives last. Before they broke to go, Eric went to a painting. Behind it was a small safe he opened. He removed a small cash box. Inside were rolls of silver coins. Use them however you need, he said. I put them in there in 1959. All will be 90% silver. Mac weighed one, grinned. Oh, that's nasty. He pulled out a pipe bomb. These are loaded with silver dimes, he said. Half a roll each. Hawk chuckled. Remind me not to stand near your ideas. They moved, each to position. Doc went up the elevator with Eileen and Mac carried her to the bedroom and lay her on the bed. With a glance at Raven, he followed Hawk to the roof. They settled in. No wasted motion. By the pool, Eric stood alone. He broke open rolls of coins, scattered them into the water. Silver sank beneath the surface. He picked up the sword. They're here. Rom. A voice called. I wish to speak to you. Then come in, Eric said. By the pool. Thorm entered. Give me the key, he said. You don't have enough to stop what's coming. You know I cannot. Then we are done. Glass exploded as Nightwalkers came through the glass of the greenhouse. The attack began. Eric moved. 1 down, 2, 3, 4. The pool burned them. Silver worked. Outside, explosions. Fire bright in the yard, consuming a Nightwalker who couldn't get out of the way. Mac and Hawk held the roof. Silver dimes tore through attackers as bombs detonated. Then Ares. A large Dark stepped forward, scarred, controlled, enjoying it. Ares. Snarling, he stepped forward. They fought. Hard, fast, brutal. Neither finished it. Ares withdrew, a gash healing on his arm and shoulder. The attackers fell back. Silence returned slowly. The house was lost. The pipe bombs had shattered the windows in the greenhouse. The fire bombs had burnt the patio and the back of the house. Mac carried Eileen down the elevator. "We need to get her to the clinic." They moved. To the garage, the Denali. Hawk drove while Raven and Eric held Eileen's hands. The tower rose ahead. They entered the underground garage. Rows of security vehicles. Hawk slowed. "That's ours." Eric looked. He hadn't seen this before. Inside, Roger met them. "Boss, no questions." "Full lockdown," Hawk ordered. "Understood." Roger moved. Fast. Efficient. Gone. Upstairs medical. Doc worked. Raven stayed with Eileen. Eric looked sad. Lauren reached out and took his hand. Time. Eileen had slipped out of awareness. Hawk led Eric and Lauren up to a penthouse on the top floor. Almost empty, there was plenty of room to do what they wanted. They had only been there a few moments when a knock on the French doors to the balcony got Eric's attention. Another knock. Brandon again. "They've pulled back," he said. "They don't know what this place is?" Eric asked. "They've gone to ground?" "You've got about a week." A pause. "I'm sorry about the old woman. I felt her weakness. Diana says she meant a lot to you." Eric nodded. "I understand. Thank you. There was more than you could see with this one." Brandon left. Later, Eric moved alone. He left the penthouse going into the private elevator. A key. Turned. Pressed. Turned again. Down. Past the garage. Further. Deeper. The doors opened. Concrete. Crates. A single light. And stone. Ancient. Carved. Covered in symbols. Eric looked at it. Nodded. Returned to the elevator. And rose. Above the building stood. Lit. Secure. Occupied. Below something waited. Silent. Unseen. Ready. Morning had not yet taken hold of the city. The tower stood quiet. Too quiet. Lauren stood near the glass longer than she realized. The water moved slowly below. Gray against gray. The kind of morning where the world hadn't decided what it was yet. She didn't see it. She was seeing him. Eric. Something wasn't right. Not really. She was still inside the memory. Not the images. The structure. That was what bothered her. The order. The precision. The control. Memories didn't work like that. Not even for the Dark. Not even for the oldest among them. They came in fragments. Emotion. Chaos. Association. But what Eric had shown was curated. Deliberate. Something was wrong. She replayed the memory. Not as Hawk had seen it. He had walked Hawk through it like a teacher. No, like a director. Choosing what to reveal and what to hide. Lauren closed her eyes briefly. She could still feel it. The moment at the cross. The hesitation. The voice speaking to him words she hadn't quite heard before the spear struck. That moment didn't belong. Not in a guided memory. Not in something he would willingly expose. Which meant he had allowed it. Or worse, he wasn't the one controlling it at all. Her eyes opened slowly. But as she had felt it, he hadn't been remembering. He had been choosing, guiding, selecting. Hawk had only seen what Eric wanted him to see. So had she. So had Raven. Lauren frowned. No. That wasn't possible. He wouldn't have allowed her thoughts stopped. The spear, the cross, the storm. The man speaking to him before the strike. That wasn't something Eric would willingly show. Which meant he hadn't lost control. He had allowed it. Or worse, he wasn't the one controlling it at all. Her eyes opened slowly. Diego's voice echoed in her thoughts. God sent him. No, she whispered. That's not possible. But her thoughts didn't carry conviction anymore. Behind her, I would like to stop by Raven's office before we go shopping. Lauren turned too quickly. Oh yes, I'm sorry. I have wondered many times myself if he really had sent me. He said it softly, reverently. Lauren's legs weakened. Eric caught her before she fell. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Strong thoughts. I hear them. Lauren stared. With you, it is easier. How long? She whispered. Since the transfer with the high priest of the 12. She blinked. The 12? The one who told me to leave the Moors. That was over 1,000 years ago. Closer to 900. Close enough. A faint nod. Then, Diana, Eric said. I can't read her. Not long enough. Everything she does is a feint, a pause. And I feel someone else behind her. That unsettled her more than anything else. I told Raven we would be down shortly, he said. Lauren nodded. But as they left, her unease deepened. The tower was fully awake. Phones, movement, voices, normal. Eric, Lauren, and Mac had entered Raven's office, and Eric introduced himself and Lauren to Elliot, a man in his early 50s in a three-piece suit, shaking his hand. Elliot held his hand for a moment, looking Eric in the eye. There was something about this man. Raven stood behind her desk. Elliot, could you bring me file 1263? Be right back. Elliot stepped back into the room a moment later with the file in hand. 1263. Raven took it without looking. Thank you. You're welcome. He lingered just long enough to be polite, then just long enough to be unsure. Then, anyone want coffee? Mac looked up. What kind? Elliot blinked. Coffee. Strong. Mac nodded thoughtfully. Eric leaned in. If it's black, I'll take it. Black I can do. Lauren tilted her head. You always offer before leaving? Elliot shrugged. It makes me look useful. Mac grinned. You are useful. That's the goal. He turned to go, paused. Looked back at Eric, just for a second, then left. Elliot returned with a coffee, then walked over to the large table, sorting the files on it, focused. Eric stepped up to Raven's desk. What? Raven asked. Good man you have there. Raven frowned. You can tell him the truth, Eric said. It won't go anywhere. He can hear you. He's not listening. How do you know? You haven't asked him to. Eric turned. Could I have file 1245, Elliot? Elliot turned. Excuse me? 1245. Certainly. He pulled it off the table and handed it to him, then went back to his work. That confirmed it. He hadn't heard a word. Mac grinned. That's a good sign. Eric looked at Raven. He doesn't eavesdrop. I had to say his name to get his attention. That's why he needed the number repeated. Lauren added quietly. He's grounded and has fabulous taste. Mac nodded. A couple more weeks and you won't know what to do without him. You will never have to worry about him. He takes attorney-client privilege very seriously. For that matter, employee-employer relations as well, Eric added. You don't even have to worry about him telling his partner. She had a puzzled look on her face. Then Eric looked at Raven curiously. Mac looked at her, then began to laugh. You don't know? It had popped out of her head into his about the time Mac began to laugh. Raven blinked. Know what? Lauren looked at her. You mean to tell me you didn't know the paralegal you hired is gay? Silence. He is? Elliot. He turned. You're going to have to tell her, Mac said. What? Elliot looked as puzzled as Raven was. Then his eyes popped open, and he covered his mouth with his hand. Oh, she doesn't know? Then he started laughing. He looked at Raven and said, I'm sorry, I don't advertise, but I thought you knew. Then you are gay? Raven looked dumbfounded. Oh yes, he laughed. All my life. But you have children and grandchildren? Raven looked puzzled. He explained simply. My ex-wife and I got married to shut our parents up. By the time we figured out, we better tell the other. We had 2 lovely children. We moved into separate bedrooms and stayed that way for the rest of our marriage. Elliot smiled. It's okay, really. I've got pretty thick skin and come from a time when you didn't advertise it where I was from. Unless you think you will have problems working with me. I'll go if you wish. You won't have to worry about it. Life happens. We all still have dinners together on Sunday. No drama, no shame. Raven flushed. I didn't see it. I get that a lot. Tension broke. Elliot had only been there 2 weeks. Laughter followed. Oh no, I just didn't know. Raven's face was beet red. After they all had a good laugh, work resumed. Mac watched the door close. Yeah, he said quietly. He's not going anywhere. Eric nodded once. No, he isn't. Now the time had come to tell Eric what he came to hear. Mac went to find Hawk. Eric asked Lauren to stay. Money, structure, losses. After an hour, Raven looked up and gave a total. Leaving a balance of $2,566,000,000 and change. Lauren blinked. What? 200 million liquid. Eric tilted his head. That wasn't the structure as I left it. Venezuela changed, Raven said. Everything else there? Gone. The government seized all other holdings when the new government took over. Eric nodded. That doesn't bother you? Lauren asked. It's unfortunate. No anger, no reaction, just acceptance. All right, Eric said. Let's go. Nordstrom? It's not there anymore, Raven said. That's unfortunate too. The day moved on. Normal, or something like it. Evening came quietly. Elliot quietly gathered his things. He had been thinking all day. From what he had seen, Raven only had 2 clients. One, small, Rose Securities. The other, a very large investment firm solely owned by Eric Scott. Under several companies, shell corporations and securities. Over $2.5 billion in working capital, 5 times that or more in assets. He paused once at the elevator. Looked back down hall, deserted at this time of day. From what he saw, all legal. Not one bit shady or dark. Museums, buildings, property, shipping, minerals, and mining. The list went on. You're overthinking it. He stepped into the elevator. Parking garage. The doors opened. Concrete. Silence. Wrong. Elliot stepped out. Something moved. Nope. There were 4. They appeared out of nowhere. The first lunged. The first hit hadn't felt real. Elliot's knuckles connected, and instead of the resistance of flesh, there was something harder, denser, wrong. The creature's head snapped sideways with a sound that shouldn't have come from anything human. Elliot staggered back, his brain trying and failing to categorize what he had just done. The second one moved before the first had even hit the ground. Fast, too fast. Elliot barely had time to turn. The briefcase came up on instinct, not as a weapon, as a shield. It didn't matter. It connected anyway, hard. The impact echoed through the garage, metal against bone, sending the creature crashing into the side of a parked SUV. The sterling silver corner cutting its cheek. Elliot sucked in a breath and watched in horror as from the cheek spreading out a flame appeared. He watched as it turned to ash before his very eyes. Adrenaline hit hard, fast, clean. Okay, no, this is not. The second 2 had turned as if ready to run. The first one was already moving again. That wasn't possible. And yet, it was happening. It should have stayed down. Anything should have stayed down after that. The blow he hit it with practiced in the dojo for years. But it didn't. It moved like nothing had happened, like pain didn't exist. And for the first time, Elliot understood something very clearly. He was in real trouble. Definitely not normal. Too fast. Too wrong. It hit him. Hard. The world snapped sideways. He went down. Darkness closing in. Lockdown. Roger saw it. Didn't hesitate. Lock it down. Hawk had already turned, leaving security with Mac. The other officer in security had turned to hit the lockdown button. Steel doors dropped. Everything sealed. Roger was the only one looking at the monitor when one of the attackers turned to ash. In Raven's office, Eric felt it. Lauren. They moved. Eric popping away quickly. Lauren followed. Doc and Raven ran for the elevators behind them. Lower-level doors to the stairs slammed open as Mac and Hawk flew out. Blood. Elliot down, with a Nightwalker leaning over him. Eric appeared next to Elliot, hitting the Nightwalker so hard he flew over the car next to them. 2 Nightwalkers turned and ran for the lower levels. The third joined them, running after. Seeing Hawk and Mac, Eric and Lauren followed them. The elevator opened and Raven with Doc stepped out, running straight to Elliot. Raven bent down to a very groggy Elliot. "What the hell?" he mumbled. "You're okay," Doc said calmly. Roger hesitated coming out of the stairwell, then ran after Eric and Lauren. Eric stopped Lauren at the top of level 5. "Stop everyone here. Don't follow me down." Lauren began to protest, but his expression stopped her. "Going to ground, you think?" Lauren asked. "Think so. But all that will happen is they will end up cornered." Eric ran forward. Going to ground was something Nightwalkers did when they were in trouble. They would literally go to dirt and bury themselves. Eric could see them in his mind, and they were on level 5 with nowhere to go. They were beginning to panic. I'm going down. One of the security guards is coming down the ramp from 2. Keep him here and do not let him on 5. I'll take care of this and be back in a minute. Are you sure? One Nightwalker could be torn up by one of them easily enough, but 3? Don't worry, I got it. Just the way Eric answered her told her all she needed to know. Eric came to the bottom of the ramp. He saw the 3 arguing at the end. One saw him. It's one of the ones we're supposed to just watch. Hey, Mr. Ram, we don't want to hurt you. We are not even supposed to talk to you, just watch. Seems you didn't follow the rules, Eric said evenly. So, what are you going to do? We got you outnumbered. Eric laughed. I see that. He brought his hands up, clapping them with a bang. A brilliant light pierced the semi-darkness of the garage, bathing the 3 Nightwalkers in a white-hot light, as bright as the sun. Eric's eyes burned, even though his eyes had been closed. But he was a whole lot better off than these 3 were. The ash drifted down to the floor. Silence. Lauren and Roger were standing at the top of the ramp. She was trying her best to hang on to him to keep him from going down the ramp. He'll be right back after he checks it. She was trying hard not to show him how strong she was. Roger was trying to get away without hurting her, but this woman had a grip on her like iron. You can hear them. He's unarmed. Let me go. Then a blinding bright light came up from level 5. It was so bright it temporarily blinded him the way a flashbang would. Lauren didn't move. She had seen power before, but not like that. Back on level 1, Doc was treating Elliot, with Raven and Max standing over him. Hawk radioed the other guard and told him to stay at the front desk. Roger was coming up behind Eric, and he was upset. I know what I heard, and I heard 3 voices, 3 very distinct voices. Where did they go? There is no way out of there. Eric raised his hands. Now, Roger, he began. He touched the thumb and forefinger of the right hand together and wiggled the fingers of the left. Roger's eyes locked on Eric's fingers. For a moment, he resisted. Then something slipped. His eyes glazed over. There was no one on the 4th level when you went down there. No one, Roger said blankly. You heard no one speaking down below. No one. You stood up at the top of the ramp and waited for me with Lauren. Waited. Then you walked back up here with us. Walked. Eric put his hands down. Roger looked at all of them. Then said, Well, I'd better get back to the desk. Thank you, Roger. Sorry I took you on a wild goose chase. No problem, he said, walking away. They were all staring at Eric. Eric looked at Mac. Can you get in and erase the security tapes? On my way. Mac headed for the elevators. Eric turned around and looked at Elliot. He gazed up at him defiantly and said, Don't you dare do that shit to me. Raven started to giggle. Then they all broke out in laughter. Doc checked him. I hit one. Yes, you did. And the other? With your briefcase. Good. But the second one? Elliot was looking at Eric. We have a lot to discuss, Eric replied. Elliot spent the night in the guest bedroom at Eric's penthouse. The 2 of them, with Lauren, had spoken into the night. Elliot slept only an hour. He entered the living room, following the smell of fresh brewed coffee. Eric stood by the windows in the dark, looking at the sound. You stood your ground. I got hit. You stood first. A pause. You're not normal. No. Okay. Then, Eric softly murmured, Eileen won't survive long. Silence. Then, yes, sir. When she dies, Raven will need someone. You want that to be me? Yes. All right. Before dawn, Eric sat beside her. You came. I always do. They spoke softly. About life, about Raven, about staying. Don't stay alone this time. I'll try. A faint smile. Don't scare Lauren away. You need her more than she needs you. For the first time, Eric smiled. She passed quietly. He kissed her forehead. Goodbye, my love. Rain fell over the cemetery outside Seattle. Eric sat alone looking over the valley. Diana emerged from the trees. May I? You may. They sat in silence. I'm sorry. I know. This isn't something we did. No. Why do they do it? To remember. Does it help? Sometimes. She hesitated. May I stay? I don't know where else to go. Yes. The crypt. Rain fell steady over the bluff. Not heavy, not violent, just constant. The kind of rain that settled into everything. Clothes, stone, skin, memory. The crypt doors stood open. Old stone, dark inside, waiting. Eric walked first. Not leading, not announcing, just moving. The others followed. Footsteps soft against wet ground. No one spoke. Inside, the air changed. Cooler. Still. The sound of rain softened to a distant hush against stone. Rose's name was carved clean into the wall. Untouched by time, untouched by weather, as if it refused to fade. Beside it, Eileen's place. Prepared. Waiting. And, beyond an unmarked casket already rested there, no name, no inscription. And beside it, empty stone. A space not yet claimed. Eileen was carried in. Not lowered, not hidden. Placed, carefully, beside Rose, exactly where she belonged. Raven stood closest, too close, hands clenched at her sides. Not moving, not breathing fully. Hawk stood just behind her. Close enough to reach, not touching, not yet. Max stood off to the side, still, watching everything, like he always did. Doc shifted his weight once, uncomfortable in stillness, but silent. Elliot stood near Raven, not intruding, not stepping forward, just there, exactly where he said he would be. Jonathan Marks stood at the rear, hands folded, head bowed slightly, and beside him, Lily, straight-backed, composed, eyes moving slowly across the room, taking it all in, holding it, like she had done so many times before. Diana stood just inside the entrance. She hadn't moved past it, not yet. Eric stepped forward. No ceremony. No priest, no ritual words, just him. "We all know life ends," he said quietly. His voice carried easily in the stone chamber. "How we live is how we are remembered." Silence followed, not empty, full. Lauren stepped forward first. She didn't look at the others, only at Eileen. "She was stronger than most of us ever realized," she said softly, "and kinder than she let anyone see." A small pause. "She carried more than she should have, and never complained." Lauren stepped back. Mac went next, hands in his pockets. Eyes on the floor at first. "She scared the hell out of me the first time I met her," he said. A faint ripple moved through the room. "She looked at me like she already knew everything I'd done wrong, and hadn't decided yet if I was worth keeping." A small breath. "Turns out she was right." He nodded once. "She usually was." Doc stepped forward, cleared his throat, then stopped. For a moment, he had nothing. Then, "She didn't argue with me," he said finally. "And that alone makes her one of the best people I've ever known." A faint smile flickered across his face, then disappeared. Hawk stepped forward, slower, more deliberate. He looked at Eileen for a long time before speaking. "I don't remember a time she wasn't there." A pause. "She didn't just raise us, she kept us from becoming something worse." His voice tightened slightly. "I don't know who I would be without her." He stepped back. Then Lily. She moved forward with quiet confidence, not hesitant, not uncertain. She had stood in this place before. Different day, same weight. "I worked beside her," Lily said softly. "And I learned from her, not just how to do the job, but how to see people." Her eyes moved briefly to Raven, then back. "She didn't miss things, not the important ones. A breath. And she never let anyone stand alone, even when they thought they should." She looked at Eileen one last time. "I will miss her, more than I can say." A pause. "Until we meet again, in the next dimension." "In the next dimension," the others echoed. Raven stepped forward, stopped, tried to speak. Nothing came. Her throat closed. Her hands trembled just slightly, but enough. Elliot stepped beside her, not in front, not replacing, supporting. Raven tried again. Still nothing. Elliot spoke quietly, finishing it for her, without looking at her, without drawing attention. And when he was done, he didn't move away. Raven leaned just slightly toward him, not enough for anyone else to notice. But enough. Diana watched all of it. Every word, every pause, every silence. She stepped forward, just once, then stopped. "This is," she said quietly. And couldn't finish. Eric looked at her, Said nothing. She tried again. This is not something we did. No, Eric said. It isn't. She looked at Eileen, then at Rose, then at the empty stone. You leave space, she said. Yes. For who? Eric didn't answer. That unsettled her more than anything else. Her hand moved slightly, almost reaching toward the stone, then stopped. I don't understand this, she said. No, Eric said quietly. You don't. A long pause. But I feel it. That was new. Eric turned his head slightly, just enough to see her. Yes, he said. You do. Silence returned, heavier now. But not as cold. Eric stepped forward one final time, looked at Eileen. Then, at Rose. Rest, he said softly. The casket was sealed, not rushed, not hidden. Final. The doors began to close, stone against stone, slow, deliberate. Diana remained where she stood, watching, listening, feeling something she had never allowed herself to feel before, and as the doors shut, she didn't look away. High above the city, light stretched endlessly across the dark. Mexico City pulsed below, alive, unaware. A man stood at the window, still, watching, hands folded behind his back. A phone rang once. He answered without turning. Yes. A voice on the other end. Brief, controlled. She's gone to the funeral. A pause. Small, measured. I see. Silence. Then quietly. Get me the Frenchman. He ended the call. Didn't move. Didn't speak. Outside the city continued as if nothing had changed. This is Rusty of Rusty's Mind. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and will join us for the next one. If you like the work, please leave a like and share Rusty's Mind with your friends. Thank you. Good night.